At this point, we know the Nintendo Switch has to be somewhat nearing the end of its life. While I initially predicted the Switch 2 would be coming in 2025, there are more and more rumors than ever before about it likely releasing later this year. With that said, there are a lot of collectors, myself included, of Nintendo Switch games. It's actually the only console I currently collect games for, and due to that I'm constantly keeping an eye on Switch game prices. While most games on the Switch have stayed pretty close to their initial retail price, some of them have absolutely skyrocketed. Whether it's due to being a limited release or hype around the franchise, today we're going to take a look at the most expensive physical Nintendo Switch games. Now before we get started, I want to clarify a few rules for this. I'm not going to include any games that have a sale volume of less than 2 copies per month on price charting, just because games that rare aren't really realistic to own and their price fluctuates a lot more, as then it really comes down to whatever a buyer is willing to pay for it. We will also only be looking at the price of the standard North American editions, no steelbooks, collector's editions, or versions from other regions today, just to keep things pretty uniform. All of the prices listed are from looking at multiple sold listings online and then averaging them out, and they are all listed in US dollars. If you like this type of content, be sure to subscribe and like the video. And without further ado, here are the most expensive Nintendo Switch games. At number 5, we have Dust: An Elysian Tale. Honestly, before researching for this video, I actually had never heard of this game. The sale volume is not crazy, but a few copies are sold each month online. It is an RPG that was created by lone developer Dean Dodrill originally on the Xbox 360 back in 2012. What makes this game cool is how it seems to blend elements from many different game genres. Being a side-scrolling action RPG Metroidvania, there really seems to be something for everyone here. The art style is very unique and honestly quite beautiful, along with the soundtrack. And those are things that are pretty surprising to see considering it's from an independent dev. Dust: An Elysian Tale was released by Limited Run Games for the Switch and typically sells for about $125 complete in box. At number 4, we have Skylanders Imaginators. Skylanders is a series that brings toys and video games together, with the first game in the franchise being Skylanders Spyro's Adventure back in 2011. Now throughout the last decade, Skylanders was quite popular, especially among children. However, since about 2020, there has been a bit of a fall off in terms of popularity. This has actually led to some of those out of print Skylanders games going way up in value, and the one that shows this the most is Skylanders Imaginators for the Nintendo Switch. This game now sells for around $150 for a complete in box copy. It actually came out as a launch title for the Nintendo Switch, making it the oldest Switch game to appear in this video. While I personally don't think any of my viewers would actually enjoy playing this game, if you are a collector, this is definitely one to keep an eye out for. At number 3, we have Final Fantasy 1-6 Pixel Remaster. This one is right up my alley. As you know, if you've been following this channel for a while, Final Fantasy might just be my all-time favorite video game franchise. When this game was announced for the Switch, I was really excited, having already owned Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, 10, and 12 for the console. I thought it would look great in my collection, and I was right. However, Square Enix absolutely botched the release of the North American version of this game. I remember going to bed one night and waking up to tons of news articles and videos complaining about it being sold out. Apparently this version was shadow dropped at like 1 AM on a weekday and sold out within minutes, leading to many people being extremely upset. Now luckily there is an Asian English version available through PlayAsia, which I pre-ordered as soon as I could, though it does not have that ESRB tag that a lot of collectors would prefer. Personally, I do think the PlayAsia version looks better due to having inside artwork, but to each their own. This game was expensive before the resellers got a hold of it. I believe it was selling for over $100 directly from Square Enix, but now it goes for twice that, selling for around $200 on a regular basis. If you are interested in buying this game, I highly recommend not going with this version, as the one I have is pretty easy to find right now for close to its MSRP. As a fun fact, fact side note, this is one of the rare games where the PS4 version is more expensive than the Switch version, and that's because PlayAsia never ended up selling a PS4 version of the game. They announced one and made it available for pre-orders. However, for some reason, Square Enix basically told them that they were unable to fulfill this order for the PlayStation copies, so there's no Asian version of that one. This has led to copies for the PlayStation selling for anywhere from $500 to $1,000 on average. Yikes. At number 2, we have The Messenger. The Messenger is a side-scrolling action platformer from indie developer Sabotage Studio, and it is similar in nature to Metroidvania games. Weirdly enough, the recently released Sea of Stars is actually a prequel to this game, even though that game is an RPG and this game is not. Both The Messenger and Sea of Stars were extremely well received and are prime examples of just how good indie games can be. Now this one is tricky to price because it seems that there were multiple variations of this release, and it just goes to show that the price you see on pricecharting.com is not always accurate, as you'll never actually find a copy of this game for that listed complete in box price. The one that is most commonly seen is the limited run games version, but it seems that there was also a version with a different art that was released by Special Reserve Games, and that one goes for a tiny bit more just because it's a bit older. From my understanding, both versions had 8,000 copies released, and the actual game on the cartridges is the exact same. To put it bluntly, this game is really expensive. Having initially sold for $35, it now sells for about 10 times that depending on how lucky you are. While I have seen complete in box copies going for slightly less, this game typically sells for over $300. And it's one of those somewhat rare instances where I recommend going with the digital version from the Nintendo eShop. Now before we get to the final game, I want to give a few honorable mentions. All of the following games go for around $100 and are pretty tricky to find, so keep them in mind when you're out game hunting. Here we have Stranger Things 3, Celeste, Outlast 2, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, and Super Mario 3D All-Stars. At number 1, Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. Shantae is a series about a girl named Shantae who is a half genie and protects her hometown from a pirate named Risky Boots. Seeing this game in the number 1 spot should be no surprise to you if you've been collecting Nintendo games for a while, as games in this franchise are always very rare and go for a lot of money. This all stems from the initial Game Boy game being so rare and sought after. Shantae for the Game Boy sells for over $500 for just the loose cartridge, and over $2,000 when complete in box. While the Nintendo Switch's Shantae and the Pirate's Curse is not nearly that expensive, you would be lucky to find a complete in box copy for less than $350, making it without a doubt the most expensive standard Nintendo Switch game. So that is it for the most expensive standard edition Nintendo Switch games. Now if you are a real hardcore collector, there are collector's editions of a lot of these games that sell for a lot more money. And with the Nintendo Switch 2 likely not too far in the future, it would not shock me if some of these prices end up a lot higher. This is just where they sit as of right now in January 2024. Thank you all so much for watching. Comment down below letting me know if there are any expensive Nintendo Switch games that I missed on this list. And be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as we are creeping up to that 1,000 mark. Keep in mind, if you really enjoy my videos, you can consider becoming a channel member to help fund future content here. And as always, take care guys, and I will see you in the next one.